This is not Earth. This is my world. I was chosen to become the god of this world, but I could be erased, because there are 27 other gods just like me, so I need to earn the recognition of the beings in that world and make them believe in me. Only by gaining more believers can I win this divine selection competition. Otherwise, the only fate waiting for me is death. The man's name is Fang. He's the top player of a game called the Silent World. In the game, he poured everything into advancing technology, defeated the second-ranked player, Uchiha, in one decisive move, and became the first player to unlock every achievement. This is way too easy. Congratulations on completing all achievements. The beta server is now officially closed. The Silent World is set to launch. Player Fang, you are eligible for early access to the live server. Do you wish to enter the game? Fang doesn't hesitate for even a second. He clicks confirm, but when he opens his eyes again, he finds himself standing in a ruined plaza. Where am I? Is this all just a dream? Just then, a voice cuts through his thoughts. Moments later, a mysterious woman appears before him. There's no need to be nervous. You are not the only one who has come here. Is this Earth? But Fang quickly dismisses the thought. Because he has seen this landscape countless times before, it is the lost continent from the game. Everyone present has the potential to become a true god. Remember, the world does not only exist inside a game. This land was once abandoned by the gods. On that planet, a brilliant civilization once flourished. Different races once lived together in harmony. Now, at last, it is time to welcome new life. The lost continent was created for one purpose: to find a worthy divine chosen for that planet. At its core, it works just like the game. Earn enough faith from the native inhabitants and you become the sole god of this world. What happens if I choose to give up? If you quit now, you will return to your everyday life and forget everything about this place completely. Once you join, there is no backing out midway. There are only two possible endings. Either you vanish completely, or you become the god of that world. You now have 15 minutes to make your decision. Soon, only 27 people remain. Fang immediately guesses they are candidates invited based on the game's maximum player count. It works exactly the same as the Silent World. Choose a small zone, and begin your path to divine selection. Here, you go first. The moment he takes the card, he is instantly transported to his assigned zone. But his face falls. Being the first to draw, he never expected such rotten luck. He has drawn the insect zone, the zone with the lowest win rate, and can only control insect-type creatures. Unfortunate as it is, from another angle, it is also a stroke of luck. This zone sits in a remote corner of the eastern continent, meaning wars rarely break out here, giving him plenty of time to develop and grow. From that perspective, building a civilization around insects could be a solid start. Take the frog folk living here, for instance. But what gives him a headache is the sheer number of tribes. As a first target, they are hard to approach. 500 frog folk is simply too many to deal with, and his current faith points stand at only 10, far too little to sway well-fed frog folk. He needs to find a new target. Soon he spots a group of lizard folk. They also feed on insects, and unlike many creatures, they can survive here even without water. After careful observation, Fang notices a young lizard folk severely wounded, and this one catches his eye. These are primitive tribes. He was likely driven out in a power struggle. The more he feels cast aside by the world, the more desperately he burns to change his fate. In this desolate land, even water is a scarce resource, let alone food to fill a stomach. But just then, the lizard folk suddenly erupt in excitement. They have spotted a wounded antelope. The young and strong rush forward immediately, while the old, the sick, and the injured are left waiting, only getting a few scraps of bone when the rest are done. But some lizard folk argue that food should not be wasted on those already close to death. It turns out that not long ago, they were attacked by a saber-toothed tiger. Ayuf took serious wounds protecting the tribe. The others believe he should not be abandoned. Night falls. All the lizard folk have settled down to rest, but Ayuf is jolted awake by a sound. When he looks to find the source, he is stunned. It is a butterfly. It feels deeply strange, as if something is calling out to him. Ayuf follows it without hesitation. The butterfly leads him to the top of the mountain, where he is astonished to find mountains of beetles piled high. He stares at the sight before him, unable to believe his eyes. Can this be the miracle from the legends? After this gift of food, Fang receives a surge of faith points from the lizard folk. These beetles are their lifeline, and Fang is already planning his next move. Back in the tribe, the lizard folk recognize this as divine guidance, and they name Fang the Nameless Beetle God. After bringing so many resources to the tribe, standing within the tribe rises considerably. Then the butterfly appears again, offering guidance. But when the others learn the path leads into biting cold, they hesitate and urge off to try a different direction. No, we follow the butterfly. There is nothing for us in this wasteland. Better to follow the god's guidance than to die here waiting. Fang watches quietly from the shadows. Their faith points are still too low for him to intervene directly. If they truly believe in me, they will experience a future beyond anything they have ever imagined. Off pushes forward in the direction the butterfly points, and soon discovers a desert oasis. He is certain the Nameless Beetle God has led them to a land of hope. At the same time, Fang's divine rank rises. His insect zone upgrades to level 2, and he gains the Beetle Blessing ability. Af's abilities receive a massive boost as a result. That night, once all the lizard folk are asleep, the newly upgraded Fang steps into their dreams. He needs to use AUF to build a divine image for himself. Wearing a bull skull on his head, Fang appears before Af. Is this the face of the Nameless Beetle God? The next morning, Alf announces his dream. They must hunt a wild bull and use its bones to carve a statue of the beetle god. The tribe is skeptical. A bull herd is far too dangerous for them. Alf acknowledges their concern, so he decides to go alone. The tribe stares at him in disbelief, but he waves away their worry. The god's blessing has not only healed his wounds completely, but has also greatly amplified his strength. He hurls a spear, and a moment later a tree, dozens of meters away, is cleaned through. Just then, a herd of wild bulls passes slowly at the foot of the mountain. Alf knows this is the god's guidance. He charges at the herd alone. A single throw of the spear, and a bull drops dead. Seeing this, the rest of the tribe rushes forward to help. By evening, Alf has carved the god's statue from bull bone, and leads the tribe in a ceremony of worship before it, giving thanks for the nameless beetle god's generous gifts. The ritual is crude and clumsy, but every single tribe member prays with genuine devotion. Fang's faith points surge as a result. Every effort has been worth it. It turns out Fang had already lured the bull herd to the mountain's base using wild grass, all to ensure the tribe had enough resources. What he did not expect was that the tribe ate the calves too. At this stage of development, it is hard to expect them to understand herding. The oasis cannot support a large population. At most, it will sustain them for a few years. With no knowledge of farming or herding, the days ahead will be very hard. On their own, it is far too difficult for them to figure it out. But due to strict rule constraints, Fang cannot just tell them how. But Fang quickly comes up with a plan, one that will take a long time to pull off. A few days pass. One night, Alf has a strange dream. The altar shakes violently, as if foretelling something momentous. He wakes the next morning, and immediately climbs to the altar, only to see a powerful tribe approaching in the distance. The color of their skin makes it clear, these are Alf's former people. More alarming still, their chief appears extraordinarily powerful. He rides a terrifying earth dragon. Judging by the sheer number of people, it looks like the entire tribe has migrated here. That can only mean their original homeland has been completely depleted. Alf suspects they may just be passing through. After all, his tribe's position on the hilltop is not easily spotted. But his patrol scouts act recklessly. They expose themselves early and even warn the newcomers to stay away. The chief had not expected this surprise. These people are not too bright, it seems. Alf sighs, but turns to his people and tells them to stay calm. Perhaps this is the god's arrangement. The tribe is stunned. You mean, this is the god testing us? Alf nods. Yes, or perhaps it is not a test at all but a mission the god has given us. I believe our mission is to welcome and save them. After all, we share the same blood. Just then the butterfly reappears. Is this also the god's will? It is hard to see too far ahead, but I will give everything to carry out the god's will. Watching Alf, Fang understands exactly what he intends. Alf's tribe and the Blueskin tribe must unite for population growth and technological advancement. What surprises Fang is that without any dream guidance, Alf has reached this decision entirely on his own. Is it because of his exceptional willpower? His willpower stat has already reached 14. Fang is deeply moved. If Alf can grow into a leader, with a strong sense of independent judgment, he can lead the tribe to build civilization on his own. No need for a player to micromanage every move. He will carry out my intentions far more effectively. The chief ignores the patrol's warning entirely, and instead tries to pry out the secrets of their territory. Alf steps forward calmly and says, "Here there is water, food, and a god who watches over us. This is the domain of the nameless beetle god." But the chief does not care for any of it and signals them to clear out. "We have a massive army. If you were a capable leader, you would know what to do." Alf shakes his head. "I have no desire for war. Those who have lost their home are welcome into the god's embrace, and you will earn the god's favor in return." The chief bursts out laughing. "You are the fool who does not know how to play the game." In an instant, the earth dragon lunges at him, staring up at this colossal beast. Alf knows he needs the god's blessing, if he stands any chance of winning. He drops to his knees and prays with all his heart, begging the god for courage and strength. But the earth dragon gives him no time. A single strike shatters his spear. The chief sneers. "You can go ahead and die now." Fang watches it all in silence from behind the scenes. Just then, the system triggers a mission, civilization clash. Different tribes have made first contact, and both sides receive a massive boost in experience. This mission came at just the right time. Mission conditions fulfilled. The tribe you have focused on has become your exclusive territory, and you have unlocked a new skill. Do you wish to use it now? Fang hits confirm without a second thought. In the next instant, a beam of light descends from the sky, and lands squarely on Alf. At the same moment, the earth dragon's claws slam down hard, but when the chief expects to see Alf crushed flat, the claws hit nothing but air. Blessed by the god, Alf feels a power surge through him like never before. The chief stares at Alf, completely unharmed, and his expression darkens. "I don't know how you dodged that, but you won't get a second chance." But Alf stands there, radiating total confidence. The earth dragon's strength stat sits at 87. Alf's original strength was only 30, but with the god's blessing activating the D-rank divine body enhancement skill, he instantly becomes 200 times stronger than a normal being. A gap that terrifying fills every onlooker with pure awe. The next instant, a single blow. The earth dragon goes down. Everyone knows that without the god's blessing, no one could have done that. But the chief still refuses to accept it. He snatches a short sword from the ground and charges at Alf. Alf can only shake his head. He cannot believe how stubborn this man is. So he swings one casual slap, and the chief drops unconscious on the spot. At this, the Blueskin tribe members all drop their weapons and surrender. At that very moment, the god's blessing reaches its time limit and fades. Off looks down at himself in disbelief. That feeling, it was as if the god himself had entered his body. Watching Off's performance, Fang feels a deep sense of satisfaction. Soon, night falls. Off sits quietly thinking about the path ahead. The newly joined members outnumber his original tribe 6-1. He realizes this small oasis simply cannot sustain this many people. They must push beyond the oasis if they want to build a stronger civilization. Fortunately, the Blueskin tribe is full of talented people from many different fields. So the next day, Off seeks out a blacksmith who knows how to forge iron tools, and asks what materials and conditions are needed. The blacksmith tells him that without their former chief's interference, they could have made far better tools long ago. The process requires large amounts of wood to produce a special fuel for smelting. Alf stares at the short sword in his hand deep in thought. Better tools will not only improve our hunting, they will strengthen the tribe's overall combat power. Let me think it over. I will give you an answer tomorrow. After the blacksmith leaves, a one-armed lizard folk walks over. He heard Alf was looking for a guide, and has come to offer his help. Alf looks at him and asks, "You have been wandering for a long time, haven't you?" One Arm smiles and nods. "This old body has drifted from place to place searching for somewhere to belong. Along the way I learned how to find my bearings." Alf is genuinely curious now. "What makes you so confident?" One Arm looks up and points to the sky above. "My answer is up there, in the stars. But it is more than just the sky." Alf catches on immediately. "The stars?" One Arm gives a confirming nod. Though One Arm is not entirely sure whether the stars truly move, he can use them to navigate. As long as you learn the paths of the star chart, you will never lose your way. Gazing up at the vast boundless sky, Alf is filled with wonder. So One Arm decides to teach him how to determine position using the stars. In One Arm's understanding, the stars move, shifting with the changing of the seasons. Time slips by, and soon it is well past midnight. One Arm tells him he will be tested on tonight's lesson tomorrow evening. After One Arm leaves, the guard assigned to watch the Earth Dragon comes to find Alf, reporting that after feeding it today, the creature has become much calmer. Before this, the Earth Dragon had been savage toward everyone. The guards had been completely helpless. But ever since it laid eyes on Off, something changed. Every time it sees Off, the Earth Dragon trembles, a fear so deep from within that its every movement becomes cautious and restrained. It takes the food Off offers, and Off quietly signals it to behave. The Earth Dragon settles down obediently. Off watches it and thinks, the god must have kept it alive for a reason. They just have not figured out what that reason is yet. But the guard has come for another reason as well. While feeding the Earth Dragon at midday, an idea had struck him. If we can tame a creature as powerful as an Earth Dragon, then other powerful creatures like it could probably be tamed too. Alf signals him to go on. The guard points toward the wild bull herd at the foot of the mountain. At the same time, Fang receives a mission notification. Alf's tribe has discovered the herding skill for wild bulls. It is said that at some point in human history, civilization split into two paths. One focused on farming, the other on raising and herding livestock. This is not a real primitive society, but the direction of civilization in the game follows the exact same pattern. Every great civilization traces its origins back to major river valleys. That geography made farming possible, but Fang chose the lizard folk tribe, a people with powerful bodies and extraordinary adaptability. For them, herding suits far better than farming. Now, with just a little guidance, they can develop at a remarkable pace. The march of civilization has given them wings. With Alf's backing, the blacksmith finally has the materials needed to forge stronger iron tools. With everyone working twice as hard, they are at last able to produce basic iron tools. For a tribe that once relied entirely on stone tools, this is a monumental leap forward. And what surprises Fang most is an unexpected discovery: the earliest seeds of astronomy. At this stage, it is far too primitive. Astrology might be a more fitting word for it, but in the distant future, it will carve out a path that changes the world. Alf gazes up at the star-filled night sky, and finally understands why One Arm called the stars the guides of the sky. They seem unpredictable, yet they point the way forward with absolute clarity. With sharp iron tools now in hand, Alf gathers everyone to share what is on his mind. The god has guided us to this land for a long time now. The god even reunited us with our old kin. It is the god who saved our lives, but those who are driven out into the wasteland will eventually perish there. The god desires salvation, not division and rejection. We survive so that more lives could be saved. This is the god's guidance. And so I have decided, when dawn breaks, we leave this place and go in search of greater resources. Then Alf asks One Arm to share his star-reading knowledge with the others and explain their destination. After the dawn comes, when the morning sun rises, we march to the right of it for 10 days straight. Then we follow the dried-up lake to the right for 15 days. Then we trek through the barren mountain roads and valley trails for 3 days. And at the end we will reach our destination. A forest with no end in sight, full of abundant food and rich resources. Our tribe will grow stronger because of it. At the same time, Alf calls out to the guard watching the Earth Dragon. "Jack, why did you not eat any of the bulls we caught? Everyone was working hard to catch them, yet you did not eat a single one." Jack looks confused at the question, worried he has done something wrong. He had not thought much of it at the time. He simply was not hungry. If I had given in and eaten then, I was not sure there would be any left when I was truly hungry. That was all I was thinking. Hearing this, Alf affirms what Jack did. Even when you crave the meat, you must prepare for what comes next. Then he asks Jack, Can you keep doing this? As long as I do not starve to death, I am willing. Good. With that, Alf decides to give them a far more important mission. A razor-sharp spear suddenly appears before everyone. The sight leaves the entire crowd stunned. Even a chief would rarely possess a weapon of such quality. This is the reward for those who can conquer their own hunger. Everyone stares at the reward with burning envy, and those who did not receive it are filled with a fierce desire to do better. At the same time, Alf picks up a piece of bull bone and places it over his face. He does this to make one thing clear to everyone. They carry the responsibility of keeping the tribe safe, because this wasteland is full of danger at every turn. And just like that, a bull-bone warrior stands before them all. Keep the nameless beetle god in your hearts. The nameless beetle god will always be with you. But in his heart, Alf knows this is not the god's instruction, it is his own decision. He knows that if they stay here, in just a few more years they will repeat the same mistake as before. The only way forward is to take the initiative and leave. Please forgive me, my dear nameless beetle god. Everything happening within the lizard folk tribe. Fang sees it all with perfect clarity. He knew Alf would do exactly this. Otherwise, Alf would never have earned the title of priest. With Alf's help, Fang has even shaped an entirely new kind of individual. Alf's level rises as well, with nearly every stat doubling across the board. So far, you've done exceptionally well. You've not let me down. From this moment on, you are a worthy leader. A few days later, the lizard folk tribe has been trekking through the wasteland for 3 days. The scorching heat is too much even for the earth dragon. When it collapses to the ground, everyone rushes over to check on it. One arm takes one look and figures it is simply exhausted. Alf immediately signals everyone to stop and rest. Alf is not entirely sure they can keep going. The tribe's remaining food supply is running dangerously low. All they can do is hope for another miracle from the god. Just then, the scouts sent ahead come rushing back in a panic, signaling that there are people from another tribe up ahead. Alf leads the group forward to investigate, only to find a group of goblins. The goblins take one look at the sharp iron weapons in the lizard folks' hands, and immediately drop their stone axes in surrender, handing over the last of their food. I think this must be a misunderstanding. We only wanted to leave that canyon as fast as possible and find some food in the wilderness. Alf is curious. What forced them to flee their home? We used to live on that mountain, until a terrifying monster appeared. Alf's expression tightens. That is exactly the direction they are heading. Fang watches everything unfold. He already knows, this monster is no easy opponent. It is a giant centipede. Its stats far exceed anything the lizard folk tribe can match, and it has 2 enormous venomous fangs. In the silent world it is described this way: these creatures were made by the gods before they vanished, left behind when the gods departed from this planet. Moments later, the goblin chief leads Alf to take a look. Alf is shocked at the sheer size of it. Every single breath the creature takes sends tremors through the mountainside. The goblin quickly waves to calm them. That is just the sound it makes when it sleeps. How long would it take to go around? One arm estimates at least 8 days. Alf's brow furrows at the answer. Fang can see his hesitation, and it is completely understandable. He genuinely does not know what to choose. With the whole tribe afraid, going around might be the sensible option. What are you going to do, Alf? Just then, Alf's childhood friend Carol notices something. She stares hard at the massive boulders above, and quickly comes up with a plan to kill the centipede. We have to fight. We have enough of an advantage right now. She had been inspired by the tools the blacksmith had been using. Give me a lever long enough, and I can move the whole world. Soon after, she gathers several wooden poles, and uses them to shift the enormous boulders above the monster, letting them roll down and crush it. It is a simple idea, and a brilliant one. But to take down a shell-armored creature of this level, the impact will be far more effective if all the boulders strike at once. Fang is not sure this alone will be enough to finish it off. As everyone works the levers together, the boulders come hurtling toward the centipede. By the time the centipede senses something is wrong, the boulders are already upon it, slamming hard onto the top of its head. But incredibly, even 3 boulders are not enough to kill it. They only shatter its outer shell, and send it into a complete rage. Seeing this, Alf urges everyone to move faster and push the remaining boulders down. But Fang knows it is too late. Ordinary people simply cannot move boulders at speed, so he sends the blessing down to Alf once more. The moment the power surges into him, Alf heaves a massive boulder into the air all by himself, using nothing but raw physical strength, and hurls another boulder down. He knows the centipede might dodge the falling rocks, so he decides to go in himself and distract it. Alf leaps off the cliff edge, building power with every second, then hurls his spear straight at the monster. Thrown off by the spear, the centipede has no time to dodge the boulders raining down from above. The first boulder connects, and the centipede is stripped of its ability to fight. The second delivers the killing blow. Fang is deeply pleased with Alf's performance. This hunt is a complete success. At the same time, a notification pops up: your tribe has slain the dreaded ancient shell beast. Fang also receives the hunt reward, the very thing he had been aiming for from the start, the giant centipede's core essence. Every god has resources tied to their domain, and while faith points can be used to create resources, creating something that does not yet exist usually requires special raw materials. With this core essence, I can create a living creature. A living creature is a generator of faith, spreading the god's word simply by existing, and if upgraded to a higher level, it can even gain a class, something like an apostle or an avatar. What Fang is not sure about is whether the creation method works the same way as in the original game. On the other side, Carol is already studying the creature's body. She pulls out one of its legs. If the monster's meat is edible, It would give the tribe an enormous supply of food. After a quick test, Carol confirms the meat is safe to eat, but it needs some preparation because the taste on its own is poor. Just then, she spots some herbs growing on the rocks nearby. If we use the herbs to cover the smell, it should taste much better. After a simple preparation with the herbs, the monster meat does indeed become far more palatable. Just then, Carol brings up the question of an heir to Alf. She believes a chief should plan ahead. Alf freezes at the question. This is something he has never seriously thought about. Then Carol presses him. If you have never given it serious thought, then what about me? Just as Alf is about to answer, a golden gleam nearby catches his eye. It is a piece of metal covered in carved symbols. It must have fallen from the monster's back. This is gold. I saw it once during my wandering days. They say no matter how much time passes, it never changes color and never decays. Alf holds the golden slab in his hands, falling deep into thought. Everything in this world dies, decays, and disappears. Nothing lasts forever. But this gold does not decay, which means whoever made this was trying to preserve something important. Soon, night falls. Alf still sits on a boulder, staring at the gold in his hands. He knows there is an important secret hidden within it. Just then, a movement nearby catches his attention. Several insects are circling the carcass of an antelope, as if trying to send him a message. Alf notices that the movements of the insects closely resemble the markings on the gold. Following the insects' cues, he traces the symbols on the gold, and quickly uncovers the secret hidden within. The scene shifts to the next morning. Alf goes straight to Carol and shares what he has discovered. Then Alf carves out a symbol. This symbol represents me. This other one represents Carol. More precisely, one for female, one for male. Put an equal sign between them and it means becoming partners. And that is the answer AUF wants to give. Things like this usually take generations to come about, yet here it is, happening in the earliest days of the tribe. For Fang, this is an enormous advantage. At this moment, the lizard folk tribe is celebrating. On the surface, it looks like an ordinary hunt feast. But in truth, this is how lizard folk celebrate a wedding. You catch the greatest prey and offer it to the one you have chosen. Fang watches with great anticipation, wondering what future the two of them will lead the lizard folk tribe toward. A few days later, once food supplies are secured, Alf prepares to move on. He tells the goblin chief they are welcome to stay here. The threat has been completely eliminated. The goblin chief is deeply grateful. Without your help, we would have been left wandering the wasteland. Then he introduces his child. This one knows the terrain around here very well, so I am sending him to guide you. The forest is full of beasts and traps. The scene shifts. The lizard folk tribe spots strange tracks on the ground. It is the first time any of them have seen prints like these, so they turn to the experienced One Arm for answers. One Arm recognizes them instantly. These are frog folk tracks. The frog folk are a mixed bunch, some good, some bad, and all of them are sharp. The fact that they sent scouts means they have been through war before. From these tracks, at least 5 frog folk have passed through here. Their tribe is likely even larger than ours. Alf decides to head back to camp first. Back at camp, the first thing he does is double its size and significantly increase the number of scouts and border guards. All tasks are assigned fairly and in order. The reason they do all this is that Alf knows another tribe is almost certainly watching them from the shadows. In the days it takes them to relocate their base, no frog folk attack comes. During that time, they stock up on supplies to keep the tribe secure. On this front, Fang is confident. Not many players could have done better. The lizard folk tribe has not only begun structured training, their housing and way of life are also rapidly evolving to meet the demands of a changing environment. Most remarkably, they have quickly established the concept of written symbols, and these characters are already spreading among tribe members. By combining traditional hunting marks with these symbols, they have even drawn a primitive map and begun recording each person's daily contributions. This not only boosts individual productivity, it also increases the tribe's overall food output. It is a true leap forward. Meanwhile, the locust swarms on the other side are steadily growing as well. Fang's insect zone has now reached level 4, a pace of development he never dared dream of before. Insects across the other continents are multiplying fast. Should I not be profiting from that? Ao's personal abilities and the tribe's overall strength are now above average. But this is only the beginning, because what comes next will be more dangerous than anything they have faced so far. Just then, Jack comes rushing to Alf in a panic. The frog folk have shown up at their door. Moments later, a group of frog folk appears at the camp entrance. Committed to peaceful coexistence, Alf goes out to greet them personally. But when he sees them, his brow tightens, because he notices there are lizard folk among the frog folk group. This makes Alf realize something is off. Are they here to negotiate peace? The frog folk step forward and introduce themselves first. I am Shook, son of Roy, the great chief of our tribe. We have no intention of making enemies with your people. Alf responds with equal goodwill. We of the lizard folk tribe have no desire to oppose you either. But the reason the frog folk came is to tell them that the lizard folk tribe has moved into their territory. Alf sees it very differently. This land was nothing but empty, uninhabited wilderness. There were no markings on the ground, no signs of frog folk activity anywhere. If we have truly encroached on your land, I am willing to apologize for that. But things are not as you believe. We traveled here from far away, and have simply taken up temporary shelter. Then he turns his words towards Shook with a compliment. It seems you are exactly the kind of person suited to be the next chief. Would you not agree? And Shook is indeed not immune to flattery. Through their conversation, Alf quietly pieces together the real reason the frog folk are here. Just as he suspected, they were sent by their chief to keep a close eye on us. What makes it more troubling is that there are other lizard folk with them. That detail is deeply suspicious. I need to gather more information about them carefully. AUF then extends an invitation to bring them inside the camp for a proper talk. Let us reach an agreement between us and celebrate properly. Just as Shook is about to agree, one of the frog folk behind him cuts in. Shook reluctantly says he cannot accept the invitation. Alf quickly reassures him, it is just a simple meal, nothing more. The moment food is mentioned, the frog folk agree without hesitation. Before long, Alf has a whole roasted sheep ready to welcome them. His real reason for keeping them is to find out what kind of relationship exists between those lizard folk and the frog folk, and what their true purpose is in coming here. But he cannot let the frog folk sense his curiosity. So Alf starts by building a little rapport. What is that you are wearing around your neck? This is a feather from a Kogotaurus. It is an extremely dangerous creature. Not only is it enormous in size, it also carries deadly venom, and its speed is terrifying. Alf presses further. Could a spear take one down? Shook laughs dismissively at the question, and tells the lizard folk traveling with him, Locke, to fetch his bow and arrows. Once Locke brings the bow, Shook has him hang a board in the distance as a target. Alf immediately sees through what is happening, but at the same time, it creates an opportunity. After the frog folk finishes his archery demonstration, Alf asks for a try, and deliberately misses every single shot. Sure enough, just as he expected, Locke is called over to retrieve the stray arrows. Using collecting the arrows as his excuse, Alf manages to get a moment alone with Locke. During their exchange, Locke keeps insisting that his relationship with the frog folk is one of mutual support. But this only strengthens Alf's suspicion. There is definitely something going on beneath the surface. Even when Alf hints to Locke that lizard folk are naturally stronger than frog folk, Locke keeps repeating that he needs the frog folk's protection. Without the frog folk, we cannot survive. Alf then tells Locke to forget this conversation ever happened, and if anyone asks, to say they were just discussing archery technique. The scene cuts back. The herb-seasoned mutton has both of them eating with great enjoyment, full of praise for the flavor. Alf seizes the moment to mention that beef tastes even better. Shook agrees. It has been quite a while since he last caught a wild bull. Alf then reveals that his tribe has captured live bulls. At those words, Shook goes very still for a moment. Seeing this, Alf suggests a trade, bows in exchange for the bison. Shook agrees without hesitation, but then a warning cry suddenly rings out from behind him. Just like that, Shook changes his mind, saying he needs more time to think it over. He pivots smoothly. Our people hold no ill will toward the lizard folk. He even invites Alf to see how well Locke gets along with everyone. He calls Locke over to speak for himself about his time with the frog folk. Alf grows more guarded by the second. Shook brings this up far too easily, as if every word had been rehearsed. If Alf hadn't questioned Locke closely beforehand, he might have believed all of it. The afternoon slips by. After a brief exchange, the frog folk bid the lizard folk tribe farewell and leave. As they go, Shook gives Locke a light pat on the shoulder, but Locke flinches with obvious fear. Alf catches every detail. This is nothing like a partnership between equals. Sure enough, the moment the frog folk are back among their own, they drag Locke aside and demand to know everything Alf said to him. Locke sticks to the agreed story. Alf only asked about bowmaking, but Scarface doesn't buy a word of it and drives a kick straight into Locke's ribs. Locke scrambles to explain, if I didn't say that, he never would have trusted us. He adds that learning techniques costs a fee. Shook accepts the account and tells Locke he did well. Then Shook turns serious, gesturing toward the captives stranded on the island. If you want them to live, you follow my orders. A new sacrifice has just presented itself. Locke swears he will comply, without hesitation. It wasn't long ago that Locke's own tribe first arrived here. The frog folk had extended a warm invitation, but it was a trap. Now fewer than 200 of his people remain, while the frog folk number over 1,500. Their secret weapon, a fearsome guardian deity, a massive twin-headed serpent. Locke feels helpless, even though Aof looks like a powerful warrior. His tribe numbers only 600. He doesn't believe Aof has what it takes to beat the frog folk, and if the lizard folk are sacrificed, at least his own child will survive. Days pass. Even the frog folk are surprised. The lizard folk actually caught wild bison and fenced them in. Aof makes the offer, bring bows and the bison are yours. Then Locke speaks up, suggesting that the exchange would be a good chance to get to know each other better, since they know almost nothing about the lizard folk tribe. He invites Alf to visit the frog folk village, promising more resources in return. Meanwhile, Alf is testing the bows he has made, but they only reach half the range of frog folk bows. He knows the design looks right, but without the proper materials, it will never perform the same. As the frog folk's visits grow more frequent, Alf becomes increasingly certain the peace they preach is a cover for something sinister. They are planning something. He just doesn't know exactly what. So the lizard folk tribe must stay on high alert at all times. In the meantime, the tribe makes real progress with herbal medicine, and the results are promising, thanks to a healer who already has deep knowledge of local plants. The conversation soon turns to Locke. Carol says he is willing to give Locke a chance. It is clear the man is being coerced by the frog folk. On the other side, Locke has failed to lure Alf to the frog folk village, and is now being beaten for it. Shook signals Scarface to stop. Locke cannot die yet. Scarface shoves him to the ground and backs off. Shook then tells Locke to speed things up. They plan to hold the sacrifice ceremony ahead of schedule, invite Alf and all his warriors at once, so they can wipe them out in a single strike. The reason for rushing: their chief is gravely ill. This is a closely guarded secret within the Frogfolk tribe, but Shook decides it is fine to tell Locke. It is a strange affliction that causes unbearable itching all over the body. In the early stages, a white membrane begins to spread across the skin. The membrane keeps expanding until it blocks the airway and suffocates the victim. Locke has never heard of itching being fatal. He wonders why Shook is telling him this. He suspects it is another test. He says the lizard folk must not find out. Shook just shrugs. Secrets have a way of getting out eventually. Then Locke has an idea. Tell the lizard folk that the disease is contagious and will spread to them too. He knows that certain herbs, mixed together, can make skin itch badly. Shook loves it immediately, and promises on the spot if Locke can successfully lure off and his people here, his child will be freed, no conditions. So give it everything you have. Locke makes one request. Bring some bows along, it will look more sincere. The frogfolk are reluctant, but they agree. The next day, the frogfolk pay another visit, bringing a generous load of supplies. The lizardfolk offer herbs in exchange, but the frogfolk wave them off, nowhere near enough. Then they bring up their so-called peace faith once again. Alf has seen through all of it. He makes one request, a private moment with Locke. Shook hears the request, and has no choice but to agree. A short time later, Alf leads Locke away from the group. As expected, Locke keeps up the act, promoting frogfolk goodwill, and urging Alf to let go of his suspicions. Then a blue butterfly drifts over and lands softly on Locke's head. Alf looks at him and says quietly, "There's been too much suspicion between us. It is time for that to end. Let me share a secret of our tribe." Locke stares at the strange symbols scratched into the dirt, and asks what they are. Alf explains, "I call these letters, each one carries its own meaning. This symbol means refusal, or no. That one stands for lies and falsehood." Locke asks if the letters can be combined. Alf nods. "Put these two together and they mean do not lie. In other words, truth." This puzzles Locke. Why share this with him and not with the frogfolk? Alf reads the question on his face and answers, "It comes down to faith. Between the lizard folk and the frogfolk, what truly matters to me is whether you and I can trust each other." Locke says reluctantly, "There is no need to separate frogfolk from lizard folk." Alf cuts him off. "I never believed the frogfolk, not from the start, and I knew the situation was far more complicated than it appeared. We know very well what it feels like to be pushed aside, cast out. You and I have walked the same road." Locke is caught off guard. He never expected AF to have pieced it all together. Alf watches Locke's reaction, and knows he is wavering. The seeds of faith have begun to take root. Meanwhile, Shook is praising Locke. The lizardfolk tribe has agreed to visit their village. Scarface sneers, "How foolish. They actually invited us in to tour their own home. Now we know exactly how big their tribe is and how many warriors they have. Turns out they're even smaller than we thought, barely over 300 people. All thanks to our loyal informant." He nods toward Locke. "Name your reward." Locke speaks quietly. "All I want is my son's freedom." But Scarface shakes his head. "The chief will never agree to that." "Do not worry, I remember what I promised you." Evening falls. Locke's mind is torn. He does not know whether to help the lizardfolk. Alf looks confident, but the frogfolk vastly outnumber them, and the lizardfolk do not even know how to use bows, let alone face the frogfolk's secret weapon. He keeps telling himself not to trust Alf, but his face gives him away every time. Why would Alf trust me? I am nothing but a con artist. The next morning, Alf leads his warriors to the frogfolk village. Shook comes out to meet them personally, expressing hope for friendly exchange between the two tribes. Alf responds with equal courtesy, but every lizardfolk warrior arrives fully armed. Alf offers a simple explanation: they feared monster attacks on the road. Shook smiles on the surface while his mind has already decided. Wait for the banquet, get Alf drunk, then finish him with a poisoned arrow. Just then, Alf scans the crowd searching for Locke. Shook tells him Locke is over there preparing the feast, and Locke is crouched on the ground scratching symbols into the dirt, quietly marking the positions of every lizardfolk warrior. Alf calls out to him. Locke greets him as usual, then casually mentions, "Once all the lizardfolk warriors are seated, the banquet will officially begin." What a fascinating peace summit this is. Alf glances at the symbols on the ground, and understands everything. He gives a slow nod, pulls on his bullhead mask, and signals to his warriors the banquet can begin. The lizardfolk warriors are already in position. A heartbeat later, their spears drive straight through the frogfolk archers. The frogfolk never saw it coming. In an instant, the lizardfolk tear through their formation. Alf signals his men, "Leave no one standing." Within moments, the majority of the frogfolk assassination squad is down. The rest scatter in a panic. Carol rushes over. They will regroup and counter with arrows. Alf tells him to stay calm. They are already prepared for that. Then Alf pulls Locke aside. "There is one critical task that only you can do." On the other side, Shook is seething, cursing Locke with every name he knows. He never thought Locke would turn on them this fast. The remaining frogfolk rally together. A warrior shouts, "The lizardfolk are running out of steam. They cannot match our numbers. Hold until reinforcements arrive, and victory is ours." But the next second, a volley of poison-tipped arrows flies toward the lizardfolk. Even a graze means a slow, agonizing death. What the frogfolk do not know is that the lizardfolk are ready. A wall of shields surges forward, catching every single arrow. Shook freezes at the sight. Then he shouts at his men to keep firing. Stop their advance at all costs. That is when a strange smell drifts in. A massive cloud of smoke has already swallowed half the sky. The frogfolk archers' aim falls apart completely. This was the mission Alf gave Locke. Slip into the frogfolk village, free the captives, and set the houses on fire to create a smoke screen. Locke turns to the freed captives. It is time. Join the fight. But the captives are not sure they believe him. Locke looks them in the eye. This is our only chance to escape. We have to trust the lizard folk tribe. They will beat these frog folk. When the frog folk realize their village is under attack, they know other captives have turned against them. Shook has no choice but to order a temporary retreat. A frog folk warrior pushes back. They have already lost too many of their own. Shook snaps at him. You fool! If the tribe's heir is put in danger, the entire tribe is finished. The warrior asks, should we call upon the twin-headed serpent god? Shook clearly does not want to play that card. Is there no better option? When Scarface sees the village burning, he knows the war has truly begun. A subordinate reports Shook's side is down to about 15 fighters. Scarface calculates quickly. Including our forces, we still have about 45 total. We still have the advantage. He orders all soldiers to coat their arrows with frog poison and move to reinforce Shook. But then, something enormous stirs in the nearby bushes. The sound sends a chill through every frog folk standing there. Something that big can only be a monster. The next second, the frog folk fire blindly toward the noise. The arrows land, and their jaws drop. An enormous earth dragon stands before them, every poisoned arrow bouncing off its hide. The earth dragon's body is highly resistant to toxins. Even swallowing the arrows causes no harm. Before the frog folk can react, the earth dragon lunges forward and swallows a frog folk whole. But Scarface is quick. He barely dodges the attack. Seeing this, Scarface hurls a poisoned frog at the creature, shouting for everyone to do the same. Maybe they can poison it to death. The earth dragon snaps up every single poisoned frog, one after another. Crunch, crunch, like bites of roasted chicken. Scarface stares in disbelief. Before he can move, the earth dragon swallows him too. Elsewhere, a frog folk sneaks up behind Off, but Off does not bother to dodge. A single tail whip knocks the attacker's arrow clean out of the air. Carol steps in to finish the job. Soon, only one frog folk warrior remains on the field. Locke's people have joined the fight as well. But something puzzles Off. Even with a situation this desperate, the frog folk chief Roy has not appeared at all. Watching from the sidelines, Fang allows himself a small smile. That would be because of me. Not long ago, Fang discovered a mucous membrane virus, highly contagious and lethal. Most importantly, it only affects the mucous membranes of amphibians. Around the time Off decided to leave the sacred land, Fang found this virus roughly 100 kilometers from the frog folk village. The beetles made it possible to transport the virus here. After Fang released it, the frog folk chief vanished from the battlefield. Convinced that a living sacrifice would cure the disease, Roy had the lizard folk brought in as offerings, but it accomplished nothing. Now Roy plans to sacrifice the children to the twin-headed serpent god, praying for every last lizard folk to be wiped out. Locke finds Off, breathless and pale. Off reads the panic in his face and asks what is wrong. Locke urges him desperately to head for the island in the center of the lake. The frog folk are sacrificing children to the twin-headed serpent god right now. The god may not cure their disease, but you have the power to stop this. Off stays measured. All the frog folk forces are on that island. We would be walking into a storm of poisoned arrows the moment we arrive, and we could be ambushed on the way. Locke grabs his arm. Off, please. My son is one of the sacrifices. A cold fire ignites in Off's eyes. He swings a fist into Locke's face. You idiot! You should have trusted me from the start. Save your own child. Why didn't you say something sooner? Off is furious with himself too. If he had gotten inside Shook's head earlier, he could have planned around this. On the island, Roy calls out to his deity. Great God, punish the lizard folk. Locke watches from a distance, already sure it is over, but Off refuses to accept that this time we have no terrain advantage. We fight head on. It may cost us something, but we will get those children out. A butterfly drifts past. He turns to Locke. Do you believe in miracles? Then a colossal silhouette appears against the sky. Alf knows immediately. The nameless beetle god has answered. On the island, Roy had summoned the twin-headed serpent with a sacrifice. God, accept this offering, destroy every last lizard folk. But the serpent showed no interest, which baffled Roy completely. It had always come eagerly at the first sign of an offering. Then Roy looks up, and his face drains of color. Behind him stands a colossal mantis staring him down. What is this thing? Is it a god as well? Next to it, the twin-headed serpent looks tiny. The serpent senses the threat and hisses a warning. This is Lattice, Fang's creation. Forged from the core essence of a giant centipede and the power of faith points. Lattice resembles a mantis, and at this stage, no other player could have built a creature this fast. The twin-headed serpent strikes first, lunging with its fangs, and Lattice catches it cold in one grip. The frog folk sheltering beneath the serpent scatter in every direction. Roy himself barely avoids being crushed. The serpent's second head swings in, but against Lattice's bladed forearms, the twin-headed serpent is split clean in two. Lattice speaks in a hollow, echoing voice. A little water snake dares to call itself a god? You are nothing but a wild beast. Now I offer you to my master. Let your sacrifice atone for every sin you have committed. The blades flash. The twin-headed serpent's heads fall. The deity the frog folk worshipped is gone forever. Lattice outclasses the twin-headed serpent in every single stat. A roar of celebration erupts from the lizard folk tribe. Every last one of them silently gives thanks to the nameless beetle god. Watching Lattice perform, Fang is deeply satisfied. Despite the massive frame, Lattice fits neatly into the summoning space without taking up much room at all. And the bonus power skill randomly assigned to Lattice has greatly boosted the cutting force of its bladed forearms. At the same time, Fang receives another core essence. Even he did not expect this kind of luck. This particular core essence can unlock an exclusive domain. Fang hits confirm immediately, but a message pops up unable to activate. Fresh water in the area is blocking the domain from taking effect. He sets it aside for now. There will be a right moment, eventually. Roy is completely paralyzed. He never imagined the twin-headed serpent god could fall so easily. Every last frogfolk warrior loses their nerve on the spot. Lattice signals to Fang, mission complete. Fang calls out, well done. You may rest now. Lattice vanishes, calm returns. Off rallies everyone. The frogfolk are rowing toward their village right now. The island is clear. Today, we finish this. He asks who knows the way to the frogfolk village. Locke steps forward without hesitation. Leave that to me. One of the Huon lizard folk speaks up. Please, let us join you, Chief Off. Off holds up a hand. This is a dangerous mission. You are not warriors. The Huon lizard folk push back. The frog folk sacrificed our children and our families to the twin-headed serpent. All we want now is justice. Off sees the fire in their eyes. Everyone has the right to their anger. All who seek justice, I will fight alongside you. Off gives the order for the final assault. Their goal, take the Frogfolk Island and rescue the sacrificed children. The lizard folk charge across the water. The children are safe, every one of them. Locke's reunion with his son brings tears he can no longer hold back. Off exhales for the first time in hours. He signals Jack, get the boats ready, send the children to safety first, then lead the Huelin lizard folk knights around to the back of the village, create chaos and pull the frog folks' attention away. Jack catches on immediately. You want to hit both villages at once? Off nods. While the frog folk are drawn toward you, I'll lead our soldiers through the water. Jack still looks uncertain. Off tells him not to worry. He has just discovered another gift from the god. Our black scales blend into the moonlight like mist. The enemy will never see us coming. Within moments, the frogfolk village descends into chaos. Before Roy can even catch his breath, the lizard folk are already on him. He never expected them to move this fast. The frog folk still clutch their bows, but against the spears of the black scale warriors, they have no time to react. Off cuts straight through to Roy. It is over. But Roy is still praying, lost in delusion. I have offered so many sacrifices, great God. Please save me. Off drives his spear forward. Roy's wicked life ends here. Your god is gone. Elsewhere, Shook surveys the situation and knows it is finished. We had the numbers, we had the poison arrows, but we never accounted for the lizard folk being immune to poison. That strategy was worthless from the start. Just as Shook searches for an escape route, Off steps out of the shadows behind him. So this is where you were hiding. Shook crumples to his knees the moment he sees Off. Off looks at the figure on the ground. Stand up like a warrior, draw your weapon, hold on to whatever dignity you have left. But Shook slams his forehead to the ground in a desperate bow. We have history, you and I. Please spare my life. My father forced me into all of this. When that does not work, he tries another angle. I will tell you how to make the bows. I will give you the material. Off's eyes sharpen. What is the material? Shook answers eagerly. Sinew. Off's eyes narrow. Sinew from what animal? Shook suddenly stammers. Off already knows the answer. When Shook visited the lizard folk tribe earlier, he had mentioned the bow material. Said only the frog folk knew what it was, but that the lizard folk could obtain it easily. The lizard folk had tried every material they could find, and nothing worked. Now Off understands exactly why Shook said that. The frog folk had slaughtered hundreds of lizard folk to harvest that sinew. Off pulls back the tent flap and gestures outward. You are free to go. We have no deep grudge between us. I honor the deal. Walk away. Shook does not hesitate for a single second. He bolts. He can hardly believe he is walking away with his life. Locke watches, puzzled. You are really letting him go? Off nods. Between him and me, no deep grudge, but my people have a different debt to collect. The next second, an arrow buries itself through Shook's foot. The pain is instant and total. He crashes hard to the ground. The Huelin lizard folk close in. As he scrambles to flee again, the lizard folk deliver the final blow. The war between the frog folk and the lizard folk is over. Several days later, after days of hard practice, Off's swordsmanship has grown noticeably sharper. The bows have also been improved, but a problem remains. The new bowstring holds up, but if drawn to full tension, the bow snaps. If only there were a material strong enough to reinforce the bow limbs. Locke explains, there is nothing stronger in this forest. The frog folk use the same material, but our bows simply cannot handle the strength of lizard folk. Off agrees, we cannot limit ourselves to this forest anymore. Winter is coming. To keep the bison fed, some of us will need to move to warmer ground. Locke nods. The herd needs far more food than this place can provide, and the cold is no good for the calves. Off asks about the surviving frog folk. Locke says they've been almost entirely eliminated, and during the chase he stumbled upon something strange. Before Locke can continue, a sound nearby interrupts them. Carol peeks around a tree and finds a small lizard folk child hiding behind it. What are you doing out here, little one? The child startles at Carol's appearance, then asks, are you here to find Chief Off? Carol notices something on the ground. She picks it up, a small, hand-carved wooden figure. Off takes one look and recognizes it immediately, a carving of their guardian deity. He turns it over carefully in his hands, and tells the child it is beautifully made. The child beams. It is a gift for our great chief. Locke smiles at Off. The children in the village all love making these little carvings. They trade them with each other. Carol asks curiously, are there many of them around? The child nods. The guardian god saved us all. Every child looks up to him. Off is moved by this. He turns to Locke. Have more made. Every one of us should carry a reminder. our great protector is always watching over us. Alf remembers Locke's unfinished thought from earlier. It turns out that while chasing down the last frogfolk, Locke found a mysterious cave. Alf's eyes light up immediately. He tells Locke to lead the way. A short while later, they stand before the entrance to a dark cavern. The last frogfolk were hiding here. We caught every one of them. Locke feels something unusual about this place, like it is holding a secret inside. Alf looks at the strange carvings on the cave walls and stops in his tracks. He marvels at the precision. How could anyone carve stone this cleanly? And notices that the patterns closely resemble the markings on the backs of insects. Only Fang, watching quietly from behind, knows what this truly is. Ancient ruins. Ancient ruins come in many forms. Within the rubble, one might uncover lost knowledge, or stumble upon something miraculous. Some items found inside serve vital functions. Some ruins radiate magical power outright. Ruins with special resources or mysterious blessings tend to be anchored to a fixed location. The lizard folk tribe is still at a very early stage of civilization. As nomads, they stand to gain less from a fixed ruin. Despite the low odds, Fang is quietly hoping, really hoping, it is not a magic ruin. Off pushes open the stone door. A brilliant light pours out from within. Who has woken me from my slumber? Strange traveler, welcome to the world of magic. Inside the ancient ruin is a hidden chamber. At its center stands a stone arch bridge dozens of meters tall, curving downward in the shape of a C. Carol turns to Off. Should we consult the nameless beetle god first? Off shakes his head. This is not the kind of thing to bother a god with. I trust us to handle it ourselves. Then, from deep below comes a vast and rumbling sound. Countless pairs of eyes stare up at them from the darkness. When they finally make out the shapes, everyone freezes. Giant rats. Off blinks. Do rats actually get this big? Someone answers, those look like nutria. We ate a few on the road once, but a normal nutria is only about 60 centimeters long. The ones below are closer to a full meter, which would put their weight in the dozens of kilograms. And something else feels deeply wrong. Nutria never travel in packs like this, and they certainly do not bare their teeth at humans. Alf names them on the spot. Rat beast seems more fitting. Normal animals do not turn aggressive without reason, they run. But these rat beasts are deliberately advancing toward us. He suspects they are the guardians of this place. He signals everyone to ready their weapons. Sure enough, the rat beasts charge. But against the spears of the lizard folk warriors, the rat beasts do not last long. The survivors scatter in all directions. Off stares at the massive fallen body and says, these things should be edible. Maybe we can pen them up like the bison. And if that works, I think fish farming might be worth trying too. But do fish not just disappear when you take them? In every swamp and pond he had known, fish dwindled as they were caught, until there were none left. Locke shakes his head. That was not how it worked in the big ponds when we lived with the frog folk. Fish lay eggs and breed. During the breeding season, the frogfolk would warn us not to fish. Just then, one of the warriors lets out a sharp cry. Off spins around and asks, what is wrong? The warrior is clutching his hand in agony. One of his fingers smells scorched. Off examines the hand carefully, no bite marks. The warrior says, I barely touched it, and it felt like fire. The body of the dead rat beast crackles faintly with a buzzing sound. Off reaches out and lightly presses a finger against it. An instant surge of force rips through his entire body, paralyzing him head to toe. Carol asks, tense, are you hurt? Off grips his numbed hand and waves her off. Only Fang, watching from behind, recognizes what this means, and it is exactly what he had been dreading. A magic ruin. Divinity is not the only source of power in the silent world. The last time Fang won, he used what amounted to nuclear force, a product of science, not divine power. Before the medieval era, divinity and scientific advancement grew in parallel. In the modern age, they moved in opposite directions. The more devoted people became to their gods, the more they distorted the foundations of science. And those who mastered science and knowledge stopped depending on gods altogether. In the silent world, beyond divinity and science, there exists a third force, magic. Magic and divinity are also in opposition. But unlike science, this conflict has existed from the very beginning, because magic operates on its own independent power system. In ancient times, any person or creature that wielded strong magic was unstoppable. Those who commanded magic were worshipped as gods, and naturally they placed no faith in any other deity. As modern science advanced, magical power faded and weakened, but not all magic stands in opposition to divinity. Fang himself has won several battles by using magic, so the key to winning is not divinity alone, but learning to balance divinity, science, and magic together. Fang knows these rules well. When the moment calls for it, he will use magic without hesitation. He just did not expect the opportunity to arrive this soon. After checking the system messages, Fang confirms, this is a demonic magic ruin. It grants individuals the ability to learn demonic magic. The effect is not limited to one person. In clan-based societies, especially in a clan like AUF's, every member of the clan has a chance to inherit demonic magic. But this is also where it gets dangerous. The magic passes down through generations, growing stronger with each one, until eventually a true sorcerer is born. And a sorcerer's power comes not from a god's blessing, but from the ancient demons themselves. This is why divinity and magic inevitably clash. According to the data, the pure magic route carries a low win rate, because rising sorcerers have a habit of overthrowing the players who created them. But compared to the pure divinity route or the divine magic hybrid, it still edges out ahead. At that moment, an unidentified creature resembling a manta ray drifts toward Off. Traveler, do you desire this power? Say the word and I will grant it to you.